Welcome to Season 2 of our Enabling Remote Work with Microsoft Teams webcast. I'm your host, Stephen Rose, and hey, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it. New season, new show, new format. Let's talk about what we're going to do different in Season 2. Well, the first thing is we're no longer just enabling remote work. We're now enabling remote work with Microsoft Teams, which means we're going to focus in on Teams and all of the different questions that you folks have been asking. We're going to dedicate shows to things like, I really want to understand security better. Let's talk about device management, or how do I better work with external access and guests? So we're going to be dedicating shows to these topics. We're going to have a mix of Microsoft experts and some real world experts that we're going to bring in. So I'm super excited to do things a little bit differently. And we certainly want to hear from you. If you have a great idea for a show or a guest you'd love to see or a burning topic, we encourage you to reach out to us and we'll talk about the best ways to connect with us at the end of the show. We're also going to add some new segments. We're going to do an unboxing segment. This week, we're going to have our very first one. So we're going to show off some cool new laptops and new Teams hardware and accessories and just cool things that you're probably going to want to check out and spend money that you don't have on. We'll have some cool high-profile guests that will occasionally check in. But again, this is really about hearing from you guys on what you really want to hear and what we can do to make this show great. So, speaking of real world experts this week, we are going to have some MVPs with us. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the Microsoft Most Valuable Professional Program, we'll dig into what that is. But first, let me go ahead and introduce my guests. My first guest is Mr. David Patrick. How are you today, David?
Hi, Stephen. I'm doing great. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. It's great to have you. David and I worked together at, he was part of our Sharepoint conference pre-day. He was part of our Ignite. He worked in helping the Department of Defense get Windows, Office, Teams rolled out. So take a moment and tell me a little bit about yourself, David.
Sure. So I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, MVP. I work over at Aberdeen Proving Ground. My main customer is the U.S. Army as well. We also have other customers throughout the DoD. And lately, we've been working on, getting Teams rolled out, helping our customers work with Sharepoint, using Office better, mixed with all those technologies. It's been really exciting. People say the government's slow, but they've been keeping me really busy over there.
That is awesome. Thank you. And also joining me today is Mr. David Webster. Hey, Darrell Webster. Hi, Darrell. How are you this morning?
I can be David.
And you're the guy who got up at 4 a.m. to do this today because you're in New Zealand, right?
Go live 4 a.m. Got up at 2:30.
And if anybody should be messing up names, it should be you, not me. So you can call me whatever you want during this webcast.
Thanks for having me, Stephen.
No, absolutely, Darrell. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, I'm an adoption and change architect for Datacom in New Zealand. I've worked on the systems admin and technical delivery space, but I find that I fit better with helping technology have its best chance at being used. So I'm working with customers of all sizes here in New Zealand and helping them, particularly at the moment, make the most of Teams.
All right. Awesome. One of the questions I got, and I was getting some different comments and questions over the weekend on Twitter. For those who want to reach out, it's at Stephen L. Rose. That's with a PH. If you want to send us a question while we're on the chat. But one of the questions I got is, how do you get people to use the software? Somebody said, we rolled out Teams, and all we got was people just using it for IM. They weren't using the other features. They didn't do collab. And I kind of know why this may be, but I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on why that rollout and the adoption, why the rollout went well, but the adoption was not successful.
Yeah, I find that you're right. Most people will catch on to using chat for Teams because it's a natural transition from Skype for Business or other chat tools. The collaboration side of things is more of a cultural change. And the best way to get people on board with this is to surround it with real work. So create your channels based on real work streams for your team. Even set up your team well before you actually invite people into it. And then don't try and bring all your files over, but rather bring real current work so that you've got a reason to go there.
So what are some of the things that you've run into as you've moved customers over, whether it's during deployment, post-deployment, et cetera? What are some of the things that you've run into that you go, man, if somebody would have told me this, it would have made my life much better. So here's your chance to tell us and make somebody else's life much better.
Yeah, look, I know that one of the first ways to get across to teams is not necessarily address the whole thing. In fact, it's, if we were to try and address teams, I know I've got to get the pocket knife out. If we were to address teams and, have everything open and say, here you go, here's the whole tool, it's overwhelming. So the best way to get it across is to stick with the familiar. So everyone knows what a knife is, but what the heck is this tool? No. I find that with the transition to chat and meetings and calls, one key thing is to plan for people to have to recreate things like their external contacts, to make sure that you've got ahead with federation and cushioning that blow, because there is a few definite things that are different in the experience with chat.
Mm-hmm. David, I'm going to switch over to you for a moment here. Let's ask you the same question. How did you deal with getting folks to understand which tools they could use, how they work, and then train them to use some of these new pieces within it? And again, you're working with government, which is very different because you often have to work with GCC or government cloud, and they have a reputation of being slow to change.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned training. You can't have enough training, constant, continuous training. We form these groups called champions with Microsoft's help. We're bringing people together from each of our customers. I'm one of 10 folks. Each of us have a customer of anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 people, and we band together as champions. What that means is that we're getting together, we're sharing ideas, we're sharing issues that we've encountered and different ways to solve them, and that's been really powerful. We've been able, and we use teams to meet as champions. So as Darrell said before, we're eating our own dog food. We're using teams, we're learning about teams ourselves, and then we're turning around and we're passing that back out to our customers.
So tell me more about the Champions program and what you guys did, because I know we have one at Microsoft, and I know that you leveraged that, but you also kind of made it your own. So how did you do this? And again, what could somebody take away from that?
Yeah, like you said, we kind of copied what Microsoft was already doing. Why not leverage what they've already had? And we reached out to people that, some people were voluntold, like myself. I mean, it's part of my job. But other people that can be champions are people that just those power users that are already kind of tech savvy, and they might be the budget analysts or the procurement analysts, whatever. They're not necessarily a tech person, but we invite them to be part of the Champions program, and then they can, amongst their folks, share that knowledge, those tips and tricks, those issues to watch out for. But we have, formal teams called the, CVR champions. Like I said, we invite certain folks. Some people try, it's not for them, and they go. We have a nickname for those people. We call them the chumps. So we have some champions and we have some chumps. No. It's chumps to champions, people who are naysayers, and then we convert them.
Got it.
Cool. But yeah,
you guys were using like Same Time for IM, which is very different than Teams IM. I'd used Same Time in the past, and I'm familiar with it. So that was a big shift for them. How long did it take to start to get a majority of people on board until that ball got rolling?
Yeah, we're still working on it. So we still have some pockets of folks out there that are hanging on the Same Time. It's expensive, number one. It does chat great, but what about everything else? So that's what we're using to leverage people to jump on the teams and saying, fine, you can chat. You could have chatted before. We didn't change anything there. But did you know that now you can upload files, now that you can collaborate on those files? And that's been real game changers for us, for our adoption.
Cool. I'm going to head back to Darrell. Darrell, I know we went through, we talked a little bit about the shift from hybrid to remote workers and on-premise. How did that go for you? And the whole thing I know is really to get people connected and then to allow them to come back securely when you guys get to that point, which you guys are still a way to go on that. So how are you managing that? How did you manage that as you look to help people along with that?
Yeah, the switch from hybrid and into using Teams. It is about trying to show that there are similar experiences within the tool. And if you do have both tools, like in our case and other customers' cases we're helping with, it's Skype for Business and Teams. While you've got both in the environment, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. Why would I go and use another chat tool when I'm quite comfortable using Skype for Business? So once you do draw that line in the sand and you've prepared people for that change and you've showed them that here's the similarities, here's the differences, then it's a much easier job to also help them see the value of the collaborative side of Teams.
Yeah, absolutely. David, same question for you. How did you best help folks to move from the on-premise into remote and start to look at that differently? Because they're already freaked out by all the change and you're adding more to it. So.
Yeah, it's sad to say, but the silver lining of the situation that we're in with the pandemic is that it was a forcing function. Folks that used to be in the building were now at home, and a lot of our tools didn't work. So we had to switch to the cloud. We kind of fast-tracked Office 365 adoption, and also had to fast-track the training. And it's kind of nice because now that people were forced into it, they were more accepting to say, well, I better sign up and learn how to do this, because the benefit is now they're working from home, and maybe they'll get to keep working from home even after this is all over. So people are really excited about moving to the cloud.
How's collaboration working for you? Oh, hang on, we just got a question in. What incentives were successful to encourage champions to participate? So let's ask that one first.
So that's a good one.
How did you bribe them?
Exactly. And it's funny that we have a couple of things that we kind of kicked around. You can't really do, being in the government, you can't really do like a day off. There is this thing called 59 minutes. It's like an hour off that some people can get, but contractors can't. So that was kind of kicked around. But it's crazy to say this, but you know what people love? They love badges. They love their badges. So we gamify it. Hey, you've got this many points, you've got a gold badge. You participated in this many conversations, you got a silver badge. That whole badge thing and how many points and I've been around, I'm a level 9, whatever. They love that. That's really been the best incentive.
And how do you track that? Are you using what tools are you using to track their usage on Team? Is it Workplace Analytics, My Analytics? Is it just people going in and filling out a survey form? How are you doing it?
Well, we already had something in place in SharePoint using the old school community template.
Yep.
Right. So we just build on that, and now we're using the Teams. So it is a little tricky because we're not quite hybrid, but we still have on-premises, and now we're using the cloud. So we have some manual, or not quite manual, but we have some processes to look at the metrics in the cloud and then move that and put that back in where we already had that whole gamification in SharePoint.
That's awesome. Darrell, I'm going to pass it back to you again. Same question to you. How did you get people to jump on board? Was it, and what has been the biggest aha moment for them?
Funny enough, one of the biggest rewards as a champion is actually to get early access and to have a voice at the table. So a number of the champions we have in our program wanted to go in to represent their people and the way that they work. And that's really what they bring, is their expertise with how they work and their interest in Teams. So aside from that and getting additional help and really listening to them and letting them shape the way that we deliver the product, I like to help them tell their story. So I like to, sit alongside them, help, write how they're using the product, and even sit and record videos like this to get the voice out there.
Okay. We just got another question in. How do you manage or control confidential data files being uploaded in Teams or SharePoint? And I do want to point out that Teams does encrypt all of our data, both at rest and in motion. But I'll let you answer that one, and then I'm going to have Dave answer the same question.
Yeah, it's all about the way that you're using Teams as well. So Teams for us is about work in progress, and it's not about exposing everything to everyone. Now, that Teams allows every team member to see the content, but we also make use of private channels where appropriate. So it's thinking, what is this item?
About private channels, because not everybody is familiar with that, as that's a newer feature.
Yeah. Well, Teams in itself is about providing collaboration for the full team, but there is sometimes a need within the team to have a small pocket for conversations and files that is separate to the rest of the team. So this does create, for the technical people, it's a separate site collection. It's got its little boundaries. Your conversations are in a separate place.
Awesome. David, same question for you. And again, working with a government agency, I'm sure there's a whole different level there. So absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of it's training. A lot of it is, this has been certified for this level. They have impact levels, and you're allowed to put certain documents in certain places. And that's true for our on premises as well as for the cloud. We can't be having people pull up any, I like to call the government #cloud cautious. So we've all been, we go through constant training to certify and know where we're allowed to put things. Now, we are looking into, with the whole data loss prevention, and there's a bunch of tools built into the cloud where we can do some automated searching, make sure no one's putting out any, we call it PII, personally identifiable information, but, things like social security numbers. There's a whole set of tools. One of the neat things about being MVP, as Darrell sort of alluded to, is that we get early access to some of this information. So, I've been training up on that, even though we haven't implemented it yet at the day job. I've been training up on this stuff, and I've been talking to the CEOs and CIOs and saying, listen, we have these capabilities, so we can make it more of that forcing function. We can turn this on, and that way, if someone does slip up and put something up they shouldn't have, an alarm will go off, an email will go out. And so we're excited about those capabilities.
Yeah, and that's using DLP or AIP or a combination of those. Well, you bring up a great point, and actually a perfect seg. You talked about being an MVP, you get early access, and one of the questions we got is, hey, how do I become an MVP? And I thought that is a perfect segment to a conversation that I had earlier this week. So let's go ahead and let's roll that interview. So we've just spent the last 10 minutes chatting with two MVPs, and I thought it'd be great to take a break for a minute and talk about what is an MVP and how do I become one? I myself was a previous MVP, so here is my cool MVP award that we can see. And I was a networking MVP, and it was just one of the best parts of my life and helped me to get my job at Microsoft. So Allie, thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I am doing great. So tell us who you are and what your connection is to the MVP program.
Sure. So I'm Allie Wieczorek. I joined Microsoft just about a year ago and interned there the year before. I've always been focused on the MVP program, but I'm actually a product marketing manager on the Microsoft 365 side. So I mostly focus on getting the MVPs engaged with our product teams and making sure they kind of have that full modern work Microsoft 365 story.
Cool. So Microsoft MVPs are Microsoft's most valuable professionals. They are our real world experts. These are the people who are working in our tech community forums. They're the ones who are blogging, they're speaking, they're doing events. How does somebody become an MVP? What is that process, and how do they stay an MVP? Because I know that's a yearly renewal. Every year you get evaluated and you go through a renewal process. So kind of walk us through a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. So it's always been kind of seen as this black box of how do you become an MVP? And probably the best thing to do is look up other MVPs who write lots of blogs and stuff about how they became them. It is by nomination only. So you have to be nominated either by a current MVP or a Microsoft employee. And then from that point on, you get evaluated just based on your contributions, which can be blog articles or speaking at events or planning events, or helping out in Microsoft tech community and getting people's questions answered. So there's a lot of different things we look at, but yeah, we're looking for technical expertise and then just that kind of value for community and sharing your knowledge with other people for free.
Yeah. So, and it's worldwide. We have, how many current MVPs do we have? I don't even know what the current number is. Do you know?
The exact number. I could get it. It's about, but we usually have about 3,000.
Yeah, it's quite a few, and they're from, almost every country around the world. So we're always looking for that. So if somebody says, I want to become an MVP, and I've had at least once a week, somebody reaches out like, I want to become an MVP at some point. What types of things should we be doing? Because I know one of the first things we say is, hey, get in the tech community and go in every day and answer a few questions. And we are looking at the volume and the quality of your answers. We're looking at speakers and bloggers. So what are some of the things that people can do to start to get noticed as part of that first step?
Yeah.
Or what do you look for?
Yeah, I think Microsoft Tech Community is a really good place to start just because it's also where you go for the most up-to-date news from our product teams. Those are the blogs you should be reading. You should be on the bleeding edge, as we say, of what our technologies are doing. So that's really helpful. And you can see the kinds of questions that people are answering. And if you see anyone on the tech community with a green ring around them, they're already an MVP. So look at the kinds of answers that they're providing and follow their lead. But honestly, we are looking for more interesting and diverse and really varied capabilities and skills. So if you're not a writer, think about organizing conferences or speaking, starting a podcast. There's so many different ways that you can contribute. And it's just about kind of getting your information out there. Twitter is a really good tool for that. Our MVPs are all over Twitter. Hashtag MVP buzz, and you'll get retweets and you'll get likes. And that's another way to get noticed too.
Awesome. I know we have the MVP page where they can look up MVPs within their country, things like that. Talk for a moment about the page and how they learn about other MVPs in their area so that they can connect with them saying, hey, I'd like to become an MVP. How did you do it? And especially within their own country or their own language.
Absolutely. So it's just mvp.microsoft.com. And from there, you can learn about the program. And then there's also a field to search for MVPs. You can search by country and by award category. And most of them also share links to their LinkedIn profile or Twitter. So some share their personal emails as well through there. It is optional to share that information, so they might not all, but you can usually find them on Twitter anyway.
Yeah, and I have yet to find an MVP who is not absolutely happy to talk with someone who wanted to become one and talk about their contributions and what they did. And with Ignite coming up, it's a great time because we look to our MVPs. If we have speaking opportunities, I know every year I've hired MVPs in our booth to work representing our product, where they get a free pass to the conference and get to go to all the sessions and all that other good stuff. And I know also I'll connect them with engineering. Engineering will have a question on a feature and I'll go, look, let's get 10 of our MVPs on a call, and we'll do that. And we really listen to them. So it's an amazing opportunity, not just to promote your skill set if you are a freelancer and things like that, to be able to find work and to network, but also for you to give us feedback based on your experiences so we can help to tailor the product and evolve the product. Because we're always looking for that combination of evolution and revolution, and it really helps keep us grounded and get folks like you and folks like our MVPs on the webcast. Awesome.
Yeah, the MVPs they're really crucial to product feedback. I just wanted to say that. I mean, I think it's a really kind of exclusive opportunity. Every MVP signs an NDA, so they get to hear about news really early and see features really early. And our engineers really rely on them and even marketing to see, like, is this messaging right? Or is this feature working for you? Or what would you add? Or what would you take away? Or what do you think is more important on our roadmap? What are we not seeing? And the product teams just value the MVP feedback so much because they're so technical. And then the MVPs also get this exciting exclusive glimpse into Microsoft's headquarters. So
plus the MVP summit every year, where up until this past year they come up here and they get a week's worth of sitting with our engineering team, our marketing teams. They get first looks at all the kind of cool stuff that's going to be coming, and a lot of what do you guys think and what are we missing. And we really look, especially at that week, as an amazing touch point. And I remember the first time I came to Seattle for an MVP summit, I was just blown away by sitting with the engineers going, hi, tell us what we're doing wrong. And I'm like, how long do we got? They're like, we got 3 hours, and we filled that full time and then some. And they're like, really, that's amazing. And how are you doing that? And like I said, without MVP program, I've been here at Microsoft for 12 years. I wouldn't have this role. So I'm incredibly, appreciative of everything that it offers. Do you have a favorite MVP story that you like to share? And then we'll get back to our MVP interviews.
Favorite story? Putting me on the spot. I don't know. I mean, I think so. One thing that I thought was really interesting, one of the first stories I heard was two of our MVPs, Adam Deltinger and Chris Horde, who actually both started out on Tech Community and met each other through Tech Community, and both became MVPs and then met for the first time at Ignite, I believe, or maybe Teams Airlift. So it was this really cute story about how they kind of built their friendship, but also their community activity and their expertise the same way. And then they actually got to meet in person when they both became MVPs. So
did
unfortunately,
music
they didn't
play? Was like, everything went into like a slow motion blur? Was it like, a meme-worthy moment?
I'm sure, you know what? I'm sure someone somewhere has a recording with some romantic music behind it.
Oh my God, that's a ride. Yeah, no, it's great. I remember, getting interviewed by a lot of our community reporters 2 years ago and last year, and the great stuff that we did. So it's absolutely awesome. So keep up the great work. Is there a URL that folks should go check out more about the MVP program?
Yeah, I would do mvp.microsoft.com. I think that's the best place to start. And then hashtag MVP Buzz on Twitter, and you'll get everything you need to know.
Awesome. Thanks for your time today, Allie. We appreciate it. We're going to get back to our MVPs and finish talking about all the cool stuff in Teams. Thanks again.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right. So all about the MVP program, and we're with our MVP. So thanks again to Allie telling us all about that. So we've got some more questions in from the folks who are watching live. So Dave, this first one's going to go out to you. Government is very fast moving and changes coming on a regular status. 365 is mind-changing event for policy and moving so quickly. Is it scaring upper management at times? And how do you kind of keep them in focus? And, Satya said, we have done months worth of change in weeks. So how do you get folks to go along with that and to kind of go, it'll be okay, trust me, which is the ultimate thing you never want to hear from an IT pro.
Right. No, I don't think upper management's scared. They've actually been fantastic. They recognize the need for change, the rapid pace of technology, and, government, we actually, that's not our forte. We usually, when I first started, we were still using Sharepoint 2007, and we were on that for a while. Training. I said it before. I'll say it again. You can't get enough training. Don't make the mistake of thinking that it's so easy. You see how these people do these demos. We do these SharePoint Saturdays where we're showing off in Teams Fest. There's all these online events where we're showing how easy the tools are. But don't let that make you forget that you still need to sit down with someone who's used it that can show you some shortcuts and the tips and tricks. And we did something the other day. We do this thing with Tech Girls, and we needed breakout rooms, which Teams formally doesn't have. But a breakout room is just another meeting. So we set up 5 different meetings and use links to switch back and forth. Teams puts one meeting on hold, and you can easily switch between meetings. People are like, wow, that's breakout rooms. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's just multiple meetings, and Teams handles it. So through training, people learn, they not to be afraid of the technology.
Cool. And somebody asked, what are you an MVP in? Because somebody said, is there an MVP for government cloud? Which there is not. So what is your MVP designation?
Right. It's technically Office Apps and Services. I consider myself a SharePoint guy, but that's, yes, Office Apps and Services.
All right. We'll come back to resources in a minute, but Darrell, I got a question, so I want to bring it to you. Can private channels be used within guest-enabled teams?
Yes and no, right? Yes, in terms of yes, the people within the organization can benefit from using a private channel within a team. Sadly, you can't get your guests in there at this stage. Yeah, I know that there's some use cases for getting guests into a private space, and the one that I can think of is sometimes you're working with multiple vendors in a project. You want to keep some of their work separate from each other.
Right.
At this stage today, not possible.
Okay, cool. Darrell, stay with you. What are some of your favorite resources or resources that folks should absolutely be aware of? And we'll list these both at, once we publish the video at the bottom, and we'll have some of these up on the screen. So what are a few of your favorite ones or ones that people should absolutely go check out and how they help and how they have helped you?
I'll start with a new one that's bringing resources together, and that's adoption.microsoft.com. For some time, there's been adoption resources here, there, and everywhere, and a lot of valiant effort from each of the different product groups. But this brings it all together, so it's Teams and it's other products as well. And you'll find some good pointers there to some of the other ones I'll mention as well. I do spend a lot of time at support.office.com/Teams. I'm super impressed with the efforts over the recent years of keeping those support resources up to date, so they actually match the product as it's being released. So that's really cool. Last one that I make a lot of use, and my customers are just lapping it up, is Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways. So I can bring those support resources into their environment, and I can also create some custom stuff to give it some relevance around how they want to communicate for the product to be used.
Cool. And I'm excited to announce that we will have 13 new Teams learning pathways that we will have released by or around the Ignite timeframe. So we're working on those even as we speak. guy on my team is leading that and doing an amazing job. That's our Docs team and our Learn team. But we will have 13 new dedicated Teams learning pathways. So I'm so excited, especially one that is specifically focused on driving adoption. So that'll be awesome. David Patrick, same question for you, sir.
Yeah, you mentioned Microsoft Learn with all the learning pathways. That's fantastic. There's a tool out there, the Sharepoint migration tool. That's great for moving to Office 365 if you need to move your stuff. But one of the best tools that we've been using, and this is one that we've been using in those Tech Girls workshops that I mentioned, is the Teams. I believe it's called Teams Demo, and basically it simulates Teams in a browser. And what's cool about that is, so we have our workshops that we do using Teams. So it's hard to demo Teams when you're in a team, but by using that simulation tool, we can actually show the girls how to use Teams while they're actually logged into Teams. So that's been super beneficial to us.
And you're working very closely with DigiGirls, is it? What's the group that you're working with?
So DigiGirls was Microsoft's, and that was our inspiration. We wanted to do something similar. So techgirls.org provided us a lot of workshops, and we actually developed our own, which is Intro to Collaboration using Microsoft Teams.
Awesome. I got one last question, then we have to go to our cool unboxing. But I'll give this to you first, David, and then Darrell, because I think this is a great question to close out. Have you worked with clients who do not want to open Teams to guests? And if you were able to convince them to open it up, how did you do it? What was your secret sauce? So, David, I'll have you answer that first, and then Darrell.
Yeah, that's great. And it varies from customer to customer. Some of our groups are very, as I mentioned, cloud cautious, and they're like, nope, no guests. And then we have others that are like, no, they're our partners. We absolutely have to have guests. And so, it's hit and miss, and some of them, okay, others no, and we work with it, on an individual case by case basis.
Yeah, and I've always said that if don't let people connect with people from the outside or share with people from the outside, they're just going to find a way to do it, and it's going to be a way that you're not managing and controlling. So do it and control it. I always love it when I say, well, do you let them use one? No, we don't let them use OneDrive for sharing. You allow them to share things through Outlook? Oh, yeah, then you have no security. Crazy. Darrell, same question to you.
It's about giving, first of all, IT and the organization some comfort that it's going to be done in a safe and governed way. So do come up with some governance principles around clearly naming that this is a team and it's for external purposes. But we also found that coming up with a provisioning process where there was some approval so that you could see, yes, this is a team for a purpose and this is the reason why. And you've got to qualify with some driving instructions to show that you understand how to handle information with guests. But I mean, apart from jumping through all those hoops, it's super important to be able to collaborate with guests because, you want to do it within your environment where you have that control, as you say.
Yeah, I know I said that'd be the last question, but we got one more that I have to ask each of you. So is Microsoft Teams admin a full-time job role? What are some of the administrative maintenance monitoring tasks that need to be done on a regular basis to ensure future success with Teams? And then we have to go to our unboxing. So Darrell, I'll start with you.
The heaviest part of admin is probably making sure that there aren't duplicates and crazy names and things like that. So if you're trying to do this manually, it could be a full-time job. But some clever orgs have created their own tool with Power Apps and Power Automate, and others are using third-party tools to try and provide a place for people to provision those tools, check to see if there's an existing team, and suggest that there's a team that they might join. So that's one of the admin tasks that you might see crop up.
Cool. David?
Yeah, I think it depends on the size of your team. At my internal contracting company, we're small. We're under 400 people. So it's a part-time role for me. I go in there, I clean up a few things. But at the government, we have multiple people performing that role. It's a constant, many full-time. So it really depends on the size of the team.
All right. We'll come back to you guys in a minute. We're going to do an unboxing. I got a great, cool new device from Poly this week. So let's roll that unboxing. All right, welcome to our first unboxing segment. Today, we have been sent the Poly Calisto 5300 speaker puck. What's great about this one is it is a portable and personal speakerphone. It is both USB and Bluetooth. It connects to Macs and PCs, and it has a Microsoft Teams button built into it. So let's take a look. So let's see what we got. We have the quick start guide, always good. Looks super easy to set up, and our very important certified for Microsoft Teams. Awesome, love that. So let's pull that out and let's take a look. So we'll unzip that. Comes in its own little pack, and there is our speakerphone, and there is the Microsoft Teams button that we talked about. So let's talk about some of the things I really like about this unit. The first is we have the choice between USB-C and USB-A, which I really like, and you can choose which one you want when ordering, and of course it works with Bluetooth. We do have the 360-degree speaker and microphone setup here at the bottom. It is a full duplex speakerphone with noise cancellation. We have our power button, and we have a lock here so that you can lock it to a desk if you want.
Power on, battery high.
16 hours of battery life, which is great.
PC connected.
And we see we have our pretty standard mute button. We have our volume button. So with our volume up and down, great. And our hang up, and then with the Teams button, which will automatically launch Teams when hit, or it will automatically connect you to a Teams call if a call has started and you get the little pop-up. And of course, to click out of it, we just use the turn off button. So let's go ahead and plug it in and take a look at the new Poly Calisto 5300. All right, let's take a look at the software. One of the things that I really like is simply by clicking here on the taskbar, I'm told how much time is remaining. I can mute the device right from here or launch the software itself. Software is pretty straightforward. Time remaining, if you're connected via PC or Bluetooth, all your product information. Under settings, you can have a voice tell you when you're muted and have it come up on screen, which I really like. If you don't want it on screen, you can just have an audible reminder when I start speaking or a on-screen reminder. So I kind of like a little bit of both. Let's see, what else? Ringtones? Yes. Thank you. You can have it play a ringtone. You can choose what your different volume level is. And of course, what is going to ring if it's your primary device or all attached audio. But here's what I really like is you can use it as a soft phone. Not only does it support Microsoft Teams, it supports a variety of different products. Media player, you can actually, if you're playing music, have it pause and resume, which I really like, especially when I'm traveling, because I'll use this as my speaker, and then notifications if you have to check and update the software. So that is the Poly Calisto 5300M, which is available now, and it's a pretty cool speaker. So I want to thank the folks for Poly for sending it over. Excellent. And thanks again to the fine folks at Poly for sending me their device. In our next episode, I'm excited to announce that I'll be showing off the new 17-inch Dell XPS. It is a gorgeous laptop, so I'm excited to show that one off. Darrell, David, I've had a lot of people saying, how do they get a hold of you? So what is the best way to reach you, either via Twitter, et cetera? And if you have a blog, I'll give you a chance to call that out. Darrell, I'll have you go first.
Sure, because I'm on top right. Yeah, on Twitter, it's Darrell as a service. No, don't write it full. You see my name there, DARRELLAAS. And I'm also on a YouTube channel, which is Modern Workplace Scenarios. So creating a lot of content there, practical short videos.
Awesome. David?
Yeah, the best way to reach me is on Twitter. Tweet me, follow me. I tweet all the time. I tell you where I'm going to be. I'm at David E as in Eric Patrick. So David E Patrick, that's my handle. And I talk about my, I'm going to be talking at SQL Saturday, Saskatchewan coming up. We got SQL Saturday. We just did SQL Saturday Albany. We got Sharepoint. There's all the code camps. I'm constantly, now they're all virtual, so everyone can attend. So if you're looking for where I'm going to be next, find me on Twitter at David E Patrick.
Awesome. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. This was absolutely great. I am Stephen O. Rose, so on Twitter, so you're welcome to follow me there. And of course, check out all the great resources that we have listed in the box right next to my big old head. One last thing, if you'd like to be featured on an upcoming segment called Here's My Life, something new we're going to be doing, send me a note on Twitter and tell me a little bit about who you are. If you have a valuable or prized possession that you want to share, something that represents you, and show me your tech setup. Darrell did a great job of this the other day, so you can take a look at his and I'll do mine. And, if we find one that's kind of cool or really like it, we may just send you a really cool Teams t-shirt or a Teams power bank. So cool stuff. Thanks again for joining us today. We will be back in 2 weeks talking about education and teams in education and getting ready to start the new virtual school year, and some cool features and some great guests that are going to talk about how to manage, use, and some of the great functionality that we have in Teams specifically for education. So make sure to join us. Thank you again to all my guests, and for everybody, have a great week, and we will see you soon.